Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bath Time with Vaughan, I guess. Today I am doing a video, and this will be my most boring video. And remember, I've only got two, um, about how I think Paul Pogba is going to fit in Rangnick's Manchester United. I understand that tactical videos can be immensely dull. So, like, if you can do me a favour and just tell me at what point you couldn't bear to watch this anymore, write it down in the comments. Or if you think I'm talking a load of fucking bollocks, just go in hard. Um, but this is how we're going to set up today. Um, I'll be looking at tactics boards and talking about team shape and stuff, and I'm trying to keep it as light as possible. I'm not going to bang on about cover, shadows, and things. I'm going to look at the origins of build-up play very quickly, how Solskjaer used to build up, and why Diego Dallo and Pogba would lose us in that build-up play. I'm going to talk about how Ragnick sets up and why Pogba and Dallo are now in the team. And I'm going to look at how I think Pogba could be used in many different ways, and even talk about some players that might replace him if he leaves. But to be honest, if it goes how I think it goes with Ragnick, I think we could get a contract out of Pogba. I really think this is the system to unlock him in. But anyway, let's start at the beginning and go back in time. So I haven't been able to work out how you put an extension in this browser to translate stuff. So I just do it myself. But this is probably the most influential column ever written about football. It concerns a player called a manager called Ricardo Lavolpe, and how his influence has permeated everywhere. He is much, much more influential than Bielsa ever was. But I'll translate this for you to give you an idea of what this is about. So this says Ricardo Lavolpe, an Argentine and the Mexican national team manager, has chosen that his players come out playing. Not that they start to play, that's another thing. For Lavolpe, to start playing is merely to pass the ball between the defenders without any real intention, just whizzing it about over and over again most of the time. For Lavolpe demands another thing. He demands players come out playing, and this means that they advance together with the ball. So they're at the same time. So the defenders and the ball coming out at the same time. Uh, if they don't do that, it has no value. It's not worth it. They have to come out together. They have to come out like lovers go out. Now, I know what you are thinking. It takes a particular kind of dickhead to talk about football this way. Who is that dickhead? I think you know who it is. It's Pep. Okay, and this is in 2006, and it is essentially the basis of his Barcelona build-up play, which is known as La Salida del La Volpe, which means the La Volpe escape, right? And this is what Ralph is using. Now, it's important to note that since this article is 15, 16 years ago, football has moved on from the traditional La Volpe escape, and a lot of this revolves around inverted fullbacks and stuff now. But all right, we'll get into that later. Let's look at what Ollie did. Okay, so Manchester United are quite clearly in red, and this is how this was our build-up shape, right? We had two centre backs playing quite wide in Maguire and Lindelof. We had a McFred double pivot. We had our fullbacks pushed up. Bruno, fuck knows where he could literally be anywhere in the build up. Rashford holding width. Greenwood slightly inverted, and Martial occupying two central defenders. Okay, so the idea with Solskjaer's build-up play at the start, when Pogba was in the team with Matic next to him, is that one of the double pivot that they would form a double pivot, and one of the players would be free because if the defender, if the sort of the number 9 or whatever is defending there, Pogba is free. If he's here, Matic is free, and that is how we would progress the ball, because their wide players would have to come out to the fullbacks and stop these overloads. But a problem began to emerge, right? Which is that these two central players didn't need to play so wide, because De Gea, and this won't be a massive like what reasons why I don't think De Gea is very good. But De Gea is not able to make these passes. Okay, he's very good at a lot of stuff, but he can't make these passes. Okay, so what began to happen is traps would be set like this, where it would look like Pogba, and this has happened to all of our central midfielders. This has happened to McTominay, it's happened to Matic, it's happened to Fred, all because of this guy in goal. It would look like that this was just the easy pass. It was a trap, and the second that the right winger was able to close off the pass to Maguire, which is, do you remember, most of our attacks were progressed on the left-hand side with these three players, Rashford, Shaw, and Maguire. As the ball would be moved out to Pogba, he would get absolutely surrounded, dilly-dally. If he didn't win a free kick or do a nice turn, there is a turnover right here with a possession, with a man advantage, basically. And football, modern day football, is all about numerical supremacy. Okay, this happened far, far too much. So how did Ollie change this around? Because he did. Like, to his credit, Solskjaer. Am I missing a player? No, I'm not. Um, to his credit, Solskjaer invented the Solskjaer escape, and this is why I think Diego Dallo and Pogba were dropped from the team or didn't get a chance. Pogba, against why Pogba, but first of all, this is how Solskjaer began to combat it. Right, Maguire would be first choice to progress the ball. Teams would set up to close down this side of the pitch. What would happen is Lindelof would go very, very wide, and he would receive the ball, and depending on where the left winger was, it would either go infield, or most of the time, it would go to Wan-Bissaka here. Now, Bruno would just do Bruno things. He could either run here, or he could run in here. It really depended. But his job was to create a bit of space in the midfield for Greenwood, right? They would then have to sort of shift round a little bit, and it would end up with Greenwood or occasionally, what's he called? Fernandez, in this position here, looking for a ball out to either Shaw or Rashford, depending on who the right back was picking up. You have seen this 100 times. Progression here with the ball ending here and then a long diagonal. And for those of you who are longer in the tooth, so to say, you will probably recognise that this is a variation on the famous Keane, Scholes, Neville, Beckham triangle from the treble team that would then find Giggs at the end of the pitch. And this is what Ollie used to do. Now, Delo is bloody awful at this particular manoeuvre. He is really, really bad at doing this. I've seen him and Greenwood try and do this 3 or 4 times, and every time they have lost the ball. I don't know why, but this is why I think Wan-Bissaka played over Delo. It's nothing to do with his one-on-one defending capabilities. Diego Delo is a better defender overall. He's just not as good. Like, Wan-Bissaka's world class when he's got the touchline and the guy running at him. But at most other stuff, he's poor in position and possession. But he was very, very good at this Solskjaer escape. He played a key part in it. And that is why I think his place was in the team. Now, because Bruno was doing Bruno things, it used to make a 3 here in midfield, and Pogba didn't have the speed or I suppose like the defensive nous to cover the vertical space or the horizontal space that was needed against 3 players. And this is why, as everyone seems to hate them, even though they got a second and third, this is why Fred and McTominay were always played, because they are very, very good at covering these spaces. It's suicidal in my view, but it did work for 2 seasons with us getting second and third. But that is why Pogba and Delo weren't really trusted. And interested, right? Go on a Delo tangent. There's something that's going on at the moment at United, and it's this guy here, Mason Greenwood, isn't playing very well, and I think it's because uh, Wan-Bissaka, instead of making overlapping runs and taking this player away, so this is what Delo does. Delo is either here or here. Um, but what Wan-Bissaka used to do is Wan-Bissaka used to overlap crazily into here, and he used to attract these players to him, which would give Greenwood all this space around here to shoot. Now, with Delo occupying the half space, which is the space in between the lines, um, Greenwood has much, much more cover. Like, he's got more defenders to deal with, and I think that this lack of time is showing that Greenwood might not be. He's not the finished article, and he probably needs a lot of coaching. But anyway, that's my theory on what's going on with Greenwood. It's to do with the lack of Wan-Bissaka making these crazy runs. Like, if you actually look at the Chelsea goal that Ziyech, or however you say it, scored the other day, he was in a similar position. He got an underlapping run and an out-to-in run, taking two players away, and just walked in, just curled it in. So the Ollie still has his presence. But anyway, so that was kind of like the build-up play that we used to use. So let's look at the Volpian tactics. So in my other video, I made a big point about how Scott McTominay was making a back three. This is the Le Volpe escape, and it involved Busquets at Barcelona dropping into the midfield to create a 3 versus 2 advantage here, because remember, football's about numerical supremacy. Okay, but what was interesting in that game is it wasn't just McTominay that did it. Towards the end of the second half, where he gave the ball away quite a lot, Bruno started playing at right centre back. I know it sounds crazy, but it did actually happen. So let's get this here. How would this work with Paul Pogba? Well, Pogba can play in two positions here and do damage and enjoy himself from both. One here is being the spare man, which allows him, he's always going to have a free pass. So if guy comes here and that's closed off, he's got an easy pass there, and he can probably make this pass to Delo. And of course, on the other side, he can do it there. What we're likely to see is teams trying to cover what is still seen as our better side, our left flank, allowing Delo to get more of the ball. That's what I think will happen. However, the way United are playing, actually, let's just keep on the build up in possession. It also allows Pogba to progress the ball with carries. If these options are marked, he can drive the ball in here with McTominay and Bruno, although this will probably be a Langer, to be honest. Bringing these guys up, Pogba can progress the ball with little pressure and all of the pitch to hit. He will enjoy that tremendously. But what can also happen is McTominay is also extremely good at progressing the ball with carries. Since Rangnick came, he has, after De Bruyne, he has the most progressive carries in the league. So McTominay, given a number 9 for some reason, can do this job as well. And what we have seen is this shape. So this is our shape in sort of like sustained pressure, where we've had Fred in the middle, we've had a 3, the fullbacks out wide, so they're either coming in here to make a 5. But anyway, look, right, the job of the fullbacks here is to pull these guys out of position, and make sure that in the defence there's no numerical advantage. And having Fred here, the idea is that he either pulls the man off, giving Maguire the ability, which we saw, to progress into the midfield, or he gets a free pass here, and this guy has to come out, right? And what we saw a lot against West Ham is we saw Greenwood and Ronaldo moving into pockets, picking these guys up, getting picked up by the West Ham centre backs, and Alanga making this run here, or what we saw, and this is more pertinent to Pogba, is we saw Bruno. So, okay, this is Alanga, number 7. We saw Alanga coming in to make the 3. We saw Ronaldo moving into this pocket and Bruno moving into this pocket here. Now, Pogba is the only player that can play all of these positions. Pogba is seen as a deep-lying playmaker with the ability to beat a man, right? So teams are going to have to push up to him because you can't leave Paul Pogba with space. And what that means is we get this nice, we get triangles all around him. And Pogba is one of our best combination players, as crazy as it seems. Bruno, surprisingly, is one of our worst, but Pogba is very good at one-touch quick passing. Um, and this allows Pogba to do his stuff and get the team going forward if the guy comes out to him. What it also allows is if let's move right, we'll have 11 as Scott McTominay and 8 as Bruno. Is if Ronaldo can pin 2 centre backs, this player here is able to run in, right, and get a free and get and be able to attack the far post. I think what we are going to see is we're going to see Delo in this position, which is taken up a lot, with Ronaldo trying to pin these 2 centre backs here and Greenwood occupying the space here. And this player here is able to get in at the back post. We saw Bruno and Alanga changing positions a lot. I think we might see Alanga going back to make the 3 and Pogba being isolated at the back stick. It could also be McTominay. But what that means is for the 2 defenders here, the centre-backs, it is very difficult to know which one of them has suddenly got to pick up the charging Paul Pogba, or next minute, the charging Scott McTominay. Because our midfielders and Alanga can all rotate into different roles in this position, causing absolute havoc for a zonal marking system. As if Pogba goes here, Alanga goes here, and McTominay goes here, all these players have to pass it off onto the next man because they're not going to go man to man. That means that we are very, very likely to have a physical advantage with McTominay and Pogba being so strong and powerful over someone. And also Alanga, to his credit, is, although he's much smaller, is also extremely powerful. So I think that we are going to see some quite interesting stuff when Pogba gets into the team, with a midfield of Pogba, Bruno and McTominay all switching positions. You would expect that Bruno, who's the least defensively capable, I mean, he puts in great work and he's tactically he's been, in the West Ham game, he's extremely impressive at doing his job, but he doesn't have the physicality to deal with long balls the way Pogba and McTominay do. So I'd expect McTominay and Pogba to be in these roles over here. But I think I'm going to sort of end it soon, but I think that you can see that there is a lot of very exciting stuff with the interchange of these players. The 2 things that worry me about this is, once again, we're a bit weak on transitions, especially at corners, because you would have Pogba, McTominay, Maguire, Varane and Ronaldo, but I don't know who is going to cover because Fred's not in the team, and Fred's not particularly good at covering transitions from set pieces because he just gets bulldozed. But I still worry that we will be weak on transitions, and unfortunately, we can't have De Gea pushing up to close the lines between the defenders. Right, one of the reason you have a high line is because if you squeeze the pitch more, there's less space for the opposition. There's in between the lines, the half spaces. A little bonus fact for you. But the one of the things that worries me is Rashford. Alanga is being picked because he's very good at this swap that's going on between him and Bruno, making the three. He's defensively disciplined, and he does his work. In this system, I am not sure if Greenwood and Rashford can play in the same team. In fact, I think what we might see is we might see Greenwood dropped for Sancho and Rashford dropped for Alanga. And I'll give you a wild speculation. I think that if Ragnick stays, I think Rashford might be sold to PSG because we've seen Rashford in these spaces again in a few games, in particular the Villa game. Do you remember in the second half, Rashford was in this space a lot, attacking this way, and he was just fucking shit. And we saw it in the glory NHS years of lockdown football. We began to see Rashford in these areas, not being able to use the ball correctly. But anyway, right, I'm going to end it there. If you've got to the end of the video, thank you very much, and I might make more of these. So thanks for watching. Splish splosh.